Pre-game swarm with head Hornet Brian Maupin on the Maumelle Sports Network. I'm play-by-play voice Steve Henson, and a noticeable absence, our buddy Tyler Chenault, unable to make it, and sadly he won't be joining us in the booth. We're going to move Jake Hall up into the booth with me for Friday night, and as Tyler's got some things going on, so just you and me, Coach.
It's like it begun, man. Like at the very beginning, man. Just you and a couple guys trying to put a program together and make it shake. I'm with it.
That's right. Hey, we're heading the right direction. I'm excited. I like it. It's been 1-2 start to the year, but I think you can look at it and go, I mean, obviously the Sylvan Hills game, Sylvan Hills is a totally different animal than what they've been in the past. Parkview, you learned a lot about the team in there, and then we get into the Valonia game, in a game that I think coming into it, from my perspective, at least from looking at what Valonia's done and kind of the talk, you knew that Valonia was maybe not what they've been in years past. They had a little bit of a tough year last year, but made their way into the playoffs. This year, a little different squad, but their results in the first couple of weeks, you were kind of like, okay, this is a game that we may be able to kind of to roll through, and really in the first half of that game, you guys were playing really well, and that really all four quarters. But first half, we get to halftime, a 24-6 lead. Offense was moving the ball well, had a defensive touchdown on the Darius Glover pick six. Bubba Johnson had a one-handed interception. But I think even Tyler and I are super excited. I'm sure you were excited as well, the defensive touchdown. But then, of course, Dylan Moran nails a 31-yard field goal to send us into the half. You had to feel pretty good about what you saw out of your team in the first half.
Yeah, it was the way we wanted to come out of the gates. It's the way we wanted to start. Is a lot of excitement in the stadium and in the program, just getting to play on a Friday night for the first time and getting to play at home for the first time, and so it was a good evening. I was glad that we started out fast. It was a game that I thought we could control. For the most part, I felt like we were always in control of the game. Really, and to be honest, man, we just had a couple plays on 3rd and 4th and long where we got a guy in position and we just got to get him on the ground. And props to Colston Ashcraft and Clint, and he made some plays and extended some things, and that's awesome. That's something that you love to learn those lessons in a win, and it's hard to recreate without pounding on your own guys. And so I said, guys, we're going to have to practice to the ground during the bye week. We're going to have to bring spots to the ground. And so it was a good refocusing tool. And, we fixed some blitz paths. And, I think we learned what we needed to learn. But we also were able to get a lot of guys a lot of reps and to have a really good, fun Friday night in Hornet Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jake kind of hit it going into halftime talking to you about, the blitzes and the pressure seemed to get there. But and give him credit. Ashcraft, coach's kid, obviously a smart kid, knows the system, been around football his whole life. So, but to watch him at times, I mentioned it, but he looked like a little Johnny Manziel out there, as Tyler said, carrying the loaf of bread, but just was so elusive. And I'm curious if it kind of felt that way on the field at times too, watching him run around.
Oh, frustrating. We'd get on the sideline, watch the iPad with the guys, and they'd be like, "Oh my goodness." And I think just sometimes kids in general, they don't understand really how the whole picture works together. And so what we had is we had our free rushers, they're pretending in their mind it's them one-on-one with the whole field. And it's like, dude, he's surrounded. You just got to break down, keep him corralled, and make the play. But we're taking it like it's a 1 in a million shot, and we're shot out of a cannon, and it's either a kill shot or a touchdown. And it just didn't have to be that in those situations. When you got them surrounded, just kind of corral them down, let the pocket collapse, and get them on the ground. But we were just so excited. We were a little gung-ho. I think the blitzes popped free, so that got them excited and got them going. Mm-hmm. And we learned that lesson. We repped it a lot in practice, feel a lot better about it.
Starting the second half, we've talked about what you want to learn from your team in non-conference games, and we've all talked about the running game and wanting to see it. And I thought what we saw to open the second half was a lot of the potential of what this running game could be. Jacob Henry was just gashing them, all the way down the field. Bubba Johnson gets to get in and snipe a touchdown away there at the end. I thought that drive was one of the more indicative. Look, the explosive plays, like you had a jump man there to score the final touchdown. Always fun to see that kind of stuff. But to see a team be able, and I think from your perspective, I would assume knowing that you can do that to wear a game out as well late, just being able to see what those guys were able to do on that drive to open the second half.
100%. Really pride ourselves on being able to attack people in a number of different ways. I don't ever want people to, prepare for us and be like, oh, they're going to spread it out, throw it around the yard. And if you can just, contain their receivers, then you got them. Or if they're like, oh, just pack the box, stop the run, and you got them. I don't ever want to be in that situation. And I think we're finding that fine balance. Me and Coach Bertram have always seen eye to eye on trying to be as 50-50 as possible. Getting Marshawn Wiley back this week would be a big shot in the arm to the run game as well. He's really dynamic, can do a lot of things. So really just excited to get that fully loaded backfield and, getting some guys healthy up front and being able to kind of impose our will a little bit. Now, I will say Beebe plays the run tough. Got some hard-nosed kids. They're going to stick their hat in there. They're going to try to make you get out of your run game. But much like we've seen in all three of our non-conference games, you got to take the shots when they're available. But when it comes time to pay the bills up front, we got to be able to do that.
So moving on to the Beebe game this week, this is a team that coming in 2-1, riding high. They've got back-to-back wins over Nettleton as well as Greene County Tech. So went up northeast to get a couple of victories there, but played Valonia earlier in the year. So you start comparing things, a 6-3 ball game. Hard to compare much from week 0 to today, really, too. But what do you see out of Beebe? Obviously, this was a game last year that was kind of that launching point. I think you've said it, during media days and other things where the guys kind of came in, you all kind of looked at each other like, hey, 22-0. This was not a Beebe team that we thought we would have issue with. And they came in, we went to their place and they took it to us. Offense just didn't work, didn't get things going. And, I think obviously got to be a little bit of a, hey, let's get back at them this year, maybe a little mentality there. But really, this was the game that you guys kind of springboarded the rest of the season. What do you see out of Beebe this year that concerns you?
Yeah, I love their ends. I think number 22 and number 9 are really, really good players, hard-nosed kids. 30 is a guy that they use in a lot of different spots, offensively and defensively. He does some good things. Coach's kid at quarterback, another little Johnny Manziel gamer back there. The running back number 0 transferred from Searcy, I believe, and he's a good hard-nosed runner, and him and 9 do a good job back there in the backfield. They try to run a bunch of different sets. I think they understand their limitations, and they try to put themselves in advantageous or awkward situations to give them every advantage that they can. And I think looking back at last year, I think in hindsight, maybe that BB team wasn't the doormat everybody wanted them to be. They should have won a first-round playoff game against a 1 seed. And, you're looking at a team that maybe, obviously, when you want to compete for conference championships, you don't need to be losing your first conference game. So it's not. But I think last year's BB team was a lot better than they got credit for. And then, this team, I think they're just a testament to the depth of the 5A Central. I think people talk about, this should be a win or whatever. And it just kind of speaks to the depth of the league when you've got a team that people just assume you should beat, and they're taking a 1 seed to the brink last season. And so, I think we're going to have to play hard. We're going to have to play physical. We're going to have to play a clean game, try to avoid penalties and negative situations. But, if we execute the way we can, I think we can put ourselves in really good positions.
How is having this bye week in week 3 as it gets you prepared into conference play, your non-conference slate's done. We were down at Highland Park with Pulaski Academy on Friday night, and I was talking with their athletic director, Coach Wyatt, and we were talking about the having that bye week. And he said, they wish that they would have been able to schedule that bye there. How important is it to you as a coach for your team to have that bye week as you load into conference play?
I think it's as good of a scheduling job, not just because this is the part I control, but I think it's as good of a scheduling job as you can do. Try to have a diverse non-conference, and then always try to make sure you go 0-1-2 so you can have that week 3 bye going into conference, because really it allows you to segment your season. You learn so much in those first 3 games. You're able to get back to the basics. The first week, obviously, we sprinkled in some Beebe. We had their Valonia game from when we played Valonia, so we were able to sprinkle in some Beebe. But, man, we're really able to focus on Maumelle for a week and fix things that maybe in those 3 non-conference games we didn't realize were going to be things that we need to emphasize in practice so much. So a lot of corrective, cleansing, getting healthy, all that kind of stuff. And then also just kind of working on the different formations and stuff that Beebe presents to get yourself a head start. I think it's just, here's the thing. I've never won my first conference game in all the years I've been here. So this is going to sound odd coming from me, but it's really important to win your first conference game. It's really important to jump out of the gate, put yourself in that top half, that playoff half that's in the 1-0 category, and go from there. And so to have an extra week to prepare for what is, one of the most important conference games, the first one, is a big deal.
So, and real quick, I want to talk a little bit about the 5A Central in general. I know, everybody likes to say it that their conference is the SEC of whatever, but you look at the history of the 5A Central, and it's been a really tough conference. Things have moved, changed, whatever. I was talking to somebody about this end of last week, and I was looking across the schedules or across the teams, and you look at it, and I guess maybe on paper you look at it, and Robinson's proven. I mean, what they're capable of, I think, so far to this point. Obviously, a lot more the potential there, but obviously Robinson looks to be up there. You guys, we look to be right there at that spot too. Obviously, hopefully a battle with them at the end of the season. When you look at the rest of the conference, I'm curious your thoughts on it, because you look at Pine Bluff, they're kind of trying to figure out that, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, mode where, the after all the studs they had a few years ago, trying to figure that out. You look at Watson Chapel, a better squad than they've been in the past. Whitehall, of course, they're always a strong, tough-nosed team, and then Searcy looks really, really tough this year. And then Jacksonville, the kind of almost unknownish until they get into conference play with Reggie Swinton. What do you think about the 5A Central this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is right now. It's kind of a transitioning conference of unknowns right now. There's just kind of a whole lot of things that are not really concrete and known. Like you said, you try to figure out Pine Bluff. Was that a one-year runoff when they won the conference and just kind of a magical team when Coach Williams coached them up really well and they put it together? Or are they a perennial thing? I think people, trying to figure out what does this trajectory from Maumelle really look like? They've gotten better every year. They went from no playoffs, fringe playoffs, winning in the playoffs, competing for a conference championship. Are they ready? Us and Robinson have finished the same in the playoffs the last 2 years, and so I think it's kind of a conference that's, Searcy's on their way back to 6A. And so, what do they have for their last ride in the conference? What does Jacksonville look like? I think Coach at Watson Chapel is doing a good job of trying to get that thing going, but that's an uphill battle, and then Whitehall, with those schools, there's always so much talent. Any kid can have a great night and make you pay and make you look really dumb or really good as a coach. And so, we just try to show up every week, coach our kids hard, give them every advantage we can, and then just know that there's no doormats. The real big difference, everybody calls their conference the SEC. Here's the thing. There's the cellar dwellers in the 5A Central are really solid programs, and I'm not going to throw any shade or name any names from other conferences, but there are some teams at the bottom of other conferences. It's just not it. And in the 5A Central, you're going to have to bring it every night. Even if you have one of those teams that hasn't made the playoffs in a couple of years, that they're capable of winning. I think about Pine Bluff last year. Defensively, they were as stout as any unit we played, maybe short of, Parkview and Robinson that night. But any other team we played, they were just as good defensively as any of those. And, and that's a team that won 3-4 games. And so it really gets you thinking, and you're like, okay, we got to bring our hard hats no matter who we're playing against. But I love that because I respect everybody. I try to teach our kids to respect everybody. And until that ref does this and we've turned that clock and it's over, we're going to treat everybody like it's the doggone Super Bowl and they're the 85 Bears. So, I don't want to take anybody lightly. And this is a great conference for people who don't want to take people lightly.
All right. I can't let you go without talking about it. I think you got the shirt. I see the shirt. Talk about that Harding OBU matchup this weekend.
Oh, man, I'm excited, man. Can't wait. I know way too many OBU guys nowadays. They all start talking a little more and more the older I get. And, man, I'm proud of them Bisons. The defensive coordinator, Luke Tribble, is one of my best friends in the world. Coach Simmons is my guy. I just couldn't be more proud of an alumni to see what that program's doing. National champs a year and a half ago is still unbelievable to me. That's such an awesome thing. proud alumni and just proud of those guys, man. I'm excited. Hopefully I can get the family down there after the kids game and we can get to see it.
Hey, you said something else that led me into something else, but being a Harding guy and seeing that Ferris State team, you probably weren't too surprised to see what Mr. Chambers did against Arkansas a couple weeks ago.
Not in the least bit. The rest of the nation, when he transferred there, I said, he's going to play a role. That's a bad man. That sucker was nasty. He put a real hurting on my boys last year, and he was different. So didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, appreciate you joining us. That's going to do it for our pregame swarm. Good luck this week, and go Hornets.
Go Hornets.